Sasquatch!
Have you ever always wanted to be a superhero as a kid? I know I always wanted to be a superhero. I used to watch Spider-Man, Batman, the X-Men, and all those superhero shows. But I didn't really feel like a true hero until I was introduced to Ben 10. Ben 10 is a cartoon created by Man of Action, and it aired on Cartoon Network from 2005 to 2008. Here's some background if you didn't know about Man of Action. Man of Action is a group of writers who created TV shows, comic books, and I think movies. Their notable works are Ben 10, Generation Rex, and Big Hero 6. Big Hero 6 is actually a comic book that they created for Marvel. And the comic book would later become a movie by Disney. And it's actually one of my favorite movies. I absolutely love Ben 10. It's one of my favorite shows as a kid. I remember, I think I watched Ben 10 when it was in its later seasons. But even then, I absolutely loved it. I used to make paper Omnitrix as a kid, pretending that I would, change into certain aliens and stuff like that, and pretend that I was, Ben 10. I also made illustrated books or comic books as me as Ben 10. So now coming back to Ben 10, I wanted to rewatch it and to see how it holds up today on Saturday morning cartoon. First, let's talk about the story. The main story is about a 10-year-old kid who goes on a summer trip with his cousin and grandpa, Gwen, or his cousin Gwen. On the trip, he discovers a device, an alien device, called the Omnitrix. It's sort of like a watch that makes Ben transform into different aliens. Every episode of it is its own adventure. So, like, each episode has its own really little mini storyline. But every episode is sort of connected to a big picture. And the big picture is that the villains are trying to capture Ben and gain the Omnitrix for themselves. To either conquer the world, well, actually mostly conquer the world, but So, and every episode they try to figure out how to defeat the villain of that episode. Kind of like in Power Rangers when they have the Monster of the Week. So, and the concept I kind of like. They sort of have like lessons in every episode where Ben tries to learn how to be a hero and trying to learn his responsibility and not having a big ego and saving people and not gaining reward. Kind of those lessons, which I absolutely love. Now, in the long run of those, it seems that Ben doesn't learn those lessons very well. But in the sense, if you think about a 10-year-old's not gonna really keep those lessons in mind. Maybe when he's older, yes, but as a 10-year-old, he's gonna forget those lessons and move on with his day. So I kind of like that aspect. So it's mostly just about Ben being a 10-year-old, being Ben, which I kind of related as a kid. I was 10, at the time, I wasn't even 10 when this came out. I was mostly, 7 or 8. So, but I still related to him as a kid. So, my biggest complaint about the story is the last 3 episodes. Spoilers or minor spoilers. The last 3 episodes, 2 of them are about all of Ben's villains coming together under one name called the Negative 10, led by the Forever Knight. And they sort of like gang up and try to take down Ben. My biggest complaint about those two episodes, and especially the last final episode of the whole show, is that they don't really have Vilgax, which is the main villain. And I feel like with Vilgax, they could have done something where they could have sort of made like a background where he's in the background controlling all of this, and sort of make it more like a big sort of deal. Kind of like, I feel like they should have done like a finale, where it's the Negative 10, Vilgax is kind of like cooperating, and you're sort of, incorporating himself into the story. He's like controlling this Negative 10, who the Forever Knight is sort of like a pawn himself. So, and they sort of did this finale thing with another TV film or TV movie called Ben 10 and Secret of the Omnitrix, which it's been a while since I've seen, so I might go and watch it, and maybe get my review on it. But on to the next thing, we're going to talk about the characters. I absolutely love these characters. I love Ben, I love Gwen, and I love Grandpa and the aliens and the villains. I love it all. I love how they make Ben, Gwen, and Grandpa throughout the series more like a team, kind of like, teamwork and cooperating with each other. I love the dynamic between Gwen and Ben, this sort of clashing of relationship as, family members or cousins. Ben is sort of like a 10-year-old boy who's rude, disgusting, not very bright. He wants to play pranks on his cousin Gwen and all that, But you sort of see how Ben and throughout the series, Ben sort of respects Gwen. And same thing with Gwen. Gwen's more of the intellectual type, tries to figure out what's going on with the episode. She tries to figure out who's behind all of it, sort of like a detective sort of deal. But she's more kind of like intellectual, kind of, respectful, kind of has manners, sort of, well, I wouldn't say sort of like a 10-year-old girl, if you consider a 10-year-old girl being that way. And then you have Grandpa. Grandpa is sort of like the expert of the group. He knows about aliens. He used to be a plumber, which technically a plumber is an alien watcher. He was an alien police, if you think about it. So he knows his things around aliens. So it's kind of nice that he kind of teaches his grandchildren how to be those types of be sort of experts of aliens. But you don't really learn about that until later seasons, which is very good, because it would be kind of weird if they just, Grandpa is a alien policeman or an alien watcher. At the very beginning of the episodes. Now they do hint at it because they call him a plumber, which that's what they're called, but they don't really do it until like at the end of the very first season. And then later on in the seasons, they kind of hint at his past and hint at, Vilgax and all that. Now, going from that, let's talk about the aliens and the villains. I love the aliens. I think they're all unique in their own way. You have Heat Blast, who can control fire. You have Forearms, who's very strong and has multiple hands. You have Cannonbolt, who can turn into a ball and basically, cannonball and stuff like that. Some of them are one note, like Heat Blast can control fire, and, then you have Accelerate, who's very fast. You have Gray Matter, who's sort of like intellectual, but he still has an attribute where he's very, very small. So there's those. So in every episode, or most of the episodes, they introduce a new alien, and I like how these aliens these new aliens are kind of spaced out in the episodes or in the seasons, and they sort of they sort of kind of solve the problem of each episode. You know, they're sort of like the solution, which kind of like that. How, and it's sort of like in compared to Power Rangers, how in Power Rangers they sort of get a new device or a new weapon to defeat the alien, or not the alien, but the monster of the week. Now to the villains are so cool. I think they're very unique in the aspect of some of them are sort of the tropes of aliens. You have Dr. Animo, you have Charmcaster, you have Hex, and you have other ones, but you have the one notable one, which is Vilgax. But we'll talk about Vilgax a little bit later. But right now, I want to talk about sort of the villains like Dr. Animo. I love Dr. Animo. I think he's a great villain for Ben. He sort of ties into science and aliens with the whole DNA. He uses DNA to mutate, you know, animals into freaks of nature. He sort of in one episode he actually uses Ben's alien DNA to create sort of like hybrids between his aliens and his mutated animals. You also have, you know, Charmcaster and Hex, who are more into magic. So, but the biggest villain of them all is Vilgax. Vilgax is one of his meanest, biggest villains, and most iconic villain in the Ben 10 universe. Which I love how they did with him. He's so big and so intimidating in some of the episodes. Steve Blum does an excellent job with that, with his voice. So let's go on to the animation. The animation is the animation and music. So the animation is very, very good. It's sort of a comic book style animation. In the backgrounds, they actually use more like a paint, or it seems like watercolor, to really make the characters pop out with that sort of comic book animation. The music is sort of like techno and sci-fi, and with the little woo, sort of that. I love the theme song that they use. It kind of sums up the whole show in a sense. It's basically the lyrics goes, Ben 10 is I can't remember the lyrics. So, but you get the idea. It's sort of like Ben 10 is sort of like he's got the Omnitrix. He wants to save people and sort of like a hero. So overall, I love this show. It's sort of like a superhero show with sci-fi tropes and aliens and monsters and all of that. So I highly recommend you watch this show, and I would even say watch the series as well, the whole franchise. It's a very good franchise. So if you like this video, give it a like, subscribe if you want more types of these videos. So I'm gonna do other stuff, give you some suggestions. It doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be animated. It could be a show, like a live action show. It could be a movie. Just, I like to review stuff and look at stuff. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you later.